please enjoy.
Just what?
You were saying.
Oh, keep going.
Yeah, we came back from the pause.
Ah,
I fixed it.
okay.
It's working now.
Cheers.
Gotta take the old cans off.
Well, Frank, what are we gathered here to talk about?
Oh, Jesus, Dylan. All right, we're going to pause this podcast real quick.
All right.
All right, here it is. We started again.
All right.
So, Dylan,
Yes, sir.
how do you want people to conceptualize you when they're, like, listening to you speak to them as a bodiless voice? You got to realize they don't know what you look like at all right now. You know, they're just going strictly off the sound of your voice and the content of the words you speak. So how do you want people, whoever might listen to this? Because let me brag for a moment. My last podcast, it got almost 30 listens. And I bet you most of those people stuck around for at least 15 minutes. So let me just brag about that real fast.
I had someone, one of our friends, actually show me a piece of the podcast.
Yes, you and I, Dylan.
Podcast, yeah.
So let's establish something. You and I are friends.
Absolutely.
We are friends.
We are, honestly, I would say you are up there with my circle of very close friends.
Oh, my goodness. You flatter me. But yes, we are friends. And we have a great time whenever we converse.
We do, man.
Yeah.
No, I think there's a level of depth to each of us that we each like to share with each other. And it's...
Yeah, we're layered.
We are, man. We're like onions, you know? Yeah.
Is this Shrek?
Oh, damn it.
Is
Shrek
that
is not
Australian
British.
Shrek?
Oh, damn.
Or is that
definitely
British?
Australian.
I don't know. I couldn't tell. All right, no, but I wanted to ask, how do you want people to conceptualize you?
Right.
And then we'll get into what we're
Okay.
actually talking about.
So, I've actually given this one a lot of thought. I am scared that if I ever stepped on a platform, that my identity completely was at risk, because the second that someone interprets something, no matter what piece of information it is that I put into the universe, however that person watching whatever is going on or listening to whatever is going on, whenever they process that information, they process it according to their worldview, their experience, right?
Right.
Who they are.
Yeah.
And I'm really terrified, honestly, that I would be perceived wrongly. And I've been accused. I've been accused of poor intentionedness before, and it's a very man, it's a shitty thing. It's a horrible thing to feel that way. And I don't. So I guess what I would say is that the way I want people to see me is I am a student. Number one, I for the last 2.5 years have very aggressively, rigorously studied philosophy, and that's branched into a couple of other faucets of study with some dabbles in psychology and neurochemistry, and I've read a lot of historical literature, honestly, I've just read a lot. I started with pre-Socratic philosophy, and I just started reading on, and I've gone back a lot. I don't know. That's who I am. I guess I would say that when someone thinks about me, the only thing that I would ask is that you keep an open mind, because I'm trying my best too. So, yeah.
And so you would use the title student.
I would use the title student simply because, as one great philosopher said, one should not teach unless asked to teach. And so my role is not to be a teacher until I am asked to teach. And I don't think that I don't think I've been asked to teach yet. So,
Yeah. It's very humble of you.
yeah, well, it's not my job, man. That's just people doing their shit.
Right. Well, so let's get into what we have here to talk about then,
Yeah.
which I spoke to you about before we started recording this podcast.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that was?
I remember that you wanted to talk to me about...
Sorry, could you hold the microphone
Yes,
up to you?
absolutely. Is this better?
That's nice. Yeah, that's better.
Honestly, no, I do not remember.
Well, that's good because it's actually bad because I didn't remember even saying that we were going to speak about something before we started recording the podcast.
Honestly, I think that you were starting.
But I was hoping that I had and that maybe you would remember.
I remember you saying that we were going to start this podcast off with me introducing myself, who I want to be.
Yeah, who you are. Yeah. And how to interpret you correctly to the best that can be done.
Yeah.
All right, well... well, how about this then?
Right.
How about this? Let me throw you a softball.
Yeah. I'm ready.
How do you feel about people in general?
I love people. I think that they're really incredible.
Is that all?
People in general, yes. I love people. I think that they're like, if I'm just God's eye view looking at the whole world,
Yeah.
I am just like, wow. I really enjoy being a human, being a person. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's nice. And I enjoy my people, you know?
All right.
Being with people. It's nice.
What about more specifically Joseph Stalin?
You know, I gotta say, there's some that are harder to get along with. And I don't necessarily know if he's someone that I would enjoy the presence of necessarily.
Yeah.
But I think that I would benefit from in some manner, some way. Yeah.
How would you benefit from Joseph Stalin?
I think that if I was able to witness his in the same way that I'm talking to you, right?
Yeah.
Someone's gonna listen to this, I know, in a year or something,
Sure.
and they're gonna be like, "Who are these two kids?" You know, or maybe men. Who are these 45-year-old fucking men? You know.
No, we're very young men.
We are very young men. But when someone hears my voice, they don't have any context to me at all, right?
Yeah.
And so in the same way, when I look at Joseph Stalin, I have a history that has been written for me, that I have read. And then there is another piece to this man. There's many, many pieces to this man, right? He was probably one of the most pivotal historical figures for a long time.
And all we hear about is like the murderous dictatorship.
Yes, and now there is a lot of very, very fucked up things that this guy has done, and I will not say that those things are in any manner justified and that by any means is he redeemed by those at all.
But a busybody.
But man, was he at work.
Yeah.
He did his work well.
He got some stuff done.
He did. That's, you know, you
You
gotta.
know, I guess at the end of the day, we could all be a little bit more like Stalin.
I don't want to be on a podcast that says that.
You don't?
No.
Well, we can end it if you want.
No.
It's just not been very long.
I'm just kidding.
We just haven't started, really.
Okay.
It hasn't been recording this whole time.
That's awesome.
No, it has.
Oh, what?
It has.
Dude,
I'm sorry.
throw me through a loop.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to throw you.
Inception, baby. Here we go.
I call it putting them through the ringer.
I'm ready for it.
That's what I was hoping for. See, some people, you know, they look at it as like mean to put somebody through the ringer, but I think like that's insulting.
No, it's a social game. You
Yeah,
know?
that's the
It's
thing.
like,
But like I'm saying, it's insulting to be like, oh, they're too fragile
yeah,
to handle.
yeah. That
a
no,
conversation.
I
You know
understand
what I
that.
mean?
And how do you even ask that? You know, no, I'm going to ask you a series of questions that you're going to feel extremely uncomfortable about.
Right,
Like, what do you?
right.
How do you?
You just kind of have to slide into it immediately.
Yeah.
You know?
it's kind of weird.
No
Yeah.
questions asked.
Yeah.
Like foreplay or something.
Oh no, that's another story.
You
baby.
just kind of have to slide right into foreplay.
Just careful not to slide too quick out of foreplay. You know what I'm saying? That's like
yeah.
the, you know, you burn the wicks. You know, I don't know.
No, I understand what you're putting down.
Yeah, it's good.
I
You
like
got a
when
whole candle to burn. You know, like take it
you do.
easy. You know?
It's a long wick.
Yeah, a long wick.
So
oh,
Dylan,
this is getting sexual.
Dylan,
Sorry, go ahead.
Dylan, do you consider yourself a thoughtful man?
I guess that's up to interpretation, but I guess what I would say is that
I'm only asking for your interpretation.
well, I don't know. I want to say that I don't necessarily have a place to place honestly like a judgment like that on myself, because that is quite a compliment if I said that about myself, that I'm a thoughtful person, because a thoughtful person is, I mean, that's quite a compliment.
It is a compliment. Yeah.
And I don't want to like, I think that the way that I think about myself is very important, and I understand, you know, you talk about the ego, this idea of, like, in not a psychological sense, of getting too big, right? Like, your ego's just fucking huge, you know?
Yeah, enlarge.
And
An enlarged ego, I
Right.
believe, is the medical term.
and it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. And so I have kind of avoided platforms for a long time because I'm kind of scared of my ego, because I've seen it face to face, and I understand it pretty well.
What does it want?
Well, it wants what I want. It is part of me, you know.
Right.
But there's definitely parts of it that I have to learn to begin to tame in. You know, I have to take the reins of that thing now and then, because I've like, I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
So are you would say, kinda then?
I
You're a
aspire
thoughtful
to
guy?
be.
Yeah. Well, that's very, very humble of you. I would say that you're thoughtful.
Thank you. Very much appreciate
You're
it.
at least cautious. And
Thank
one cannot be cautious unless they are thoughtful.
That is very true. As a couple great philosophers said, the unexamined life is not worth living.
I think
Then the
I
next guy
actually
said,
just
the
came up.
unplanned life is not worth examining.
I think I came up with that actually just now, but
Jesus Christ.
that's all right.
It's Jason Bourne.
Yeah. Do you think that will wind up in like a meme compilation?
You and me?
Yeah, that you just said Jason Bourne like that.
Jesus Christ. It's Jason Bourne.
Sorry, I'm a very wise man, you know.
Absolutely.
Like that statement I said about,
right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can't be cautious, you know, if you're not thoughtful.
Absolutely.
That was pretty wise.
So, like, it's very important to ascribe yourself that importance, because you're the wisest human.
Are you being
that I know.
sarcastic?
Frank, am I being sarcastic?
Are you being sarcastic?
Yes,
with me
I'm being
right now?
sarcastic.
Well, I might actually be the wisest person you know.
Hit me with some wisdom, baby. Hit me with some wisdom.
I don't feel the need to justify myself. If you want to ask me something in particular, though, I'm sure I'll give you a rock solid
all right.
answer.
How about this?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about meditation before?
Have I ever thought about meditation?
Mm-hmm. And I guess what I would say is, in what sense do you... No, that's a bad question. How about this?
My answer is once or twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your perception of what meditation is?
What do I think meditation is? I think meditation is like a conscious form of sleeping. And sometimes when you're sleeping, you have a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that dream is very meaningful and important. And sometimes,
It's completely meaningless.
No. People will be sort of consciously asleep. They'll be meditating.
Yeah.
And something meaningful will just sort of come into their head.
Yeah. I guess so.
So that's part of what it is.
Okay. Yeah. I can kind of see what you mean.
It is also
Yeah.
something for people that have absolutely nothing to do or to show for, and to spend time sitting down doing nothing
Mm-hmm.
and still be able to say to their peers that they did something.
Yeah.
They can go, I meditated today, which basically is probably like me walking up to you and go, I sat on the couch today and watched television. Like...
You're killing me, man.
That's what I think about meditation. I think it's one of those two things, depending on the individual.
I appreciate the criticism, Frank.
No, I mean depending on because different people use it differently. Some people genuinely do it to seek something out. As a method to seek something out. It's perfectly valid to me.
Yeah. Okay.
It's also a valid way to say that you did something when you didn't. But you can tell the different types of people.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. I feel that. Yeah.
You can smell them,
You can smell them.
You can smell the posers.
So, on that note,
Yeah.
So I very inconsistently have picked up the practice of meditation.
Very inconsistently.
Yes.
Okay.
I try to do it consistently.
I've heard that's important.
It is very important, and I'm honestly I haven't achieved much, and I think that's very, very due to my inconsistency.
Yeah, it's like working out.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And but I have had some like when I had periods of doing it somewhat consistently. I had it where about 2 weeks I was meditating for about 20 minutes every day, and by the end of that 2 weeks, I actually I was realizing that I was thinking about responses during the happenstance of that whatever was causing me to think that I needed to elicit a reaction, right? So for instance, I'm at the coffee shop, this is my daily do.
Yeah.
Is I walk down to the coffee shop because it's about a block from my house. I get stoned as a nutsack, and I read a lot of philosophy, and I just kind of pull my hair out, and I'm a weird-ass fucking dude in the corner. It's a lot of fun, honestly. So I'm sitting at the coffee shop, and this guy is coming to bring me my coffee.
Yeah.
Right? And as he walks...
What'd you get that day?
Oh, I just get black coffee, baby.
You get Americanos all the way.
No, black drip.
Black drip coffee.
Because I'm broke as fuck.
I see you.
Yeah.
And you're spending hours there.
And what?
you're spending hours at this coffee
Oh
shop.
yes. Oh yes.
Right. So
Yes.
you get multiple coffees throughout
And
the go.
they know me pretty damn well.
Right. Because
Right.
you spend hours and
I
hours.
spend hours and hours
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
and I
reading.
get free refills on my drip coffee.
Oh, wow. Look at you. That's pretty nice.
And I recently, the other day, they didn't bring my coffee out and gave me a free drink card. So
It's cool.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
All right. Sorry. But you were saying you're reading at the coffee
yeah.
shop.
So I'm sitting at the coffee
And this
shop,
guy comes up.
and this guy's got this coffee, and remember, I'm stoned, super stoned, right?
Super
I usually
high
take
on
like
marijuana.
yes, 2 dabs about is my dose. Before
And can
I go
you
read
explain?
philosophy.
Can you explain for the folks at home what a dab is?
A
Yeah.
dab is a consolidated THC. Pardon, it's just a concentrate of THC. That's basically it. So
Right.
it's,
Which that's the
psychoactive
chemical
drug.
and
Yeah, chemical that causes the high.
in
right?
marijuana.
Yes, in
Yeah.
marijuana. And so so I'm high, right?
Right. You're super high.
And this guy brings my coffee, and he sits down on the table, and he goes, "Oh, what you reading?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, I don't even know where to fucking start with this. I'm reading *Man and His Symbols* by Carl Jung. Okay, this is a psychotherapist. He was the inventor of psychotherapy, right?
Amazing fella.
An amazing guy, right?
Yeah.
And actually, that may be incorrect. If I'm incorrect there, I am completely apologize. But I also, yeah,
Incorrect on
is
what?
what it is on him being the creator of psycho therapy.
Oh, okay. Nobody's gonna call you. On
I
that.
heard you.
It's
I
gonna be
just
all right.
started reading a lot of psychology, so I haven't really got in that much.
That's all right.
So anyway, this
Just wait till you get
yeah,
to
I'm reading this
Jordan
book,
Peterson,
right?
man.
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Jordan Peterson,
Yeah,
man.
I do too.
Yeah, we'll
I do
talk
too.
about him. So this guy is very, very difficult to start. I was like, well, it's kind of like psychological, like philosophy analysis of cultures.
Yeah.
Of cultures and their associations per se.
Sure.
And he just kind of looks at me, and I was like, stoned as nuts. I'm like, oh, I probably just said gibberish because I'm stoned, right? And I was like, oh God, rephrase. I'm like, but it's also kind of like cool in that it talks a lot about like Christianity and like modern religions and all these other things. And honestly, it's a wonderful book. And he's still looking at me. He's like very confused, hasn't said a word. And I was like,
How
I'm
old
like-
is this guy? What does this guy look like?
he looks like he's 17, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like this 17-year-old little blonde kid, blue-eyed,
Oh,
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, nice-looking kid. And looks like his dad runs the place or something, you know.
Sure.
And I'm like looking at him like I'm trying so hard to communicate to this guy, and he's like, "Wow, that sounds really hard." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, it's fucking rough, man." Like, I was like, "This is some of the hardest shit I've ever run in my life." I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, "Dude, just don't lie. Like, you don't have to lie to the kid." Like,
Because it's easy.
no, it's not easy by any means, but it's not fucking Heidegger, you know?
Sure.
Fuck Heidegger.
Or a high goal.
Hegel.
Or
Hegel.
Rachmaninoff or whatever.
I don't know who that is.
I think he's a composer. Wait, his music's
Speaking
his
of high,
work is hard to read because it's music. Unless you're a musician, then you should be able to read it. Probably.
well, I have to apologize for my lack of musical abilities.
That's all right. We forgive you.
So we were talking about marijuana, and now that has just continually been in my mind.
Marijuana.
Yeah, and there's a bong right there.
Yeah,
that's
there
ready
is a
for
bong
me,
over there.
and I'm gonna.
Oh,
Excuse
are you
me.
just gonna? Well, do you want to pause it? No. Oh,
We do not need to pause this.
have you ever heard of dead air, Dylan? Do you know what dead air is? Dead air is when there's like a program that people are listening to, and there's no sound going on.
Okay.
That's dead air.
Was the dead air that just happened right after you said that sentence?
Yeah, there was a
So,
little dead air.
Is this what would definitely push some viewers away or some listeners away?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? I don't think so, Frank.
No,
I think
I
that
don't
you're a
think
pretty
so.
interesting guy.
I think I spun that pretty decently.
Yeah. No, I think honestly, I have a lot of respect for you. You
Oh,
no.
stop
Listen to me.
it,
Listen to me. Listen to me. I listen to your podcasts. Okay.
You
I
do
listen to
not.
I listened
You
to a
listened
couple of your podcasts.
You listened to a bit of probably one or two.
I listened to about 15 minutes.
That's
of,
what I thought.
Of some of your podcasts.
Okay.
Okay. And during my time listening to your podcast, I have to
Are
say,
these solo podcasts or with a guy?
one of them was with some person. I think it was one of your brothers.
Oh, okay.
Was that the case?
Well, no, not really. We had special guest comedian Blade Frank on the program about a month and a half ago. And he was a tremendous guest. I would honestly love to have him on again sometime in the future.
I listened to that.
Very entertaining guest, I think.
So,
But then there's also solo ones. Well, Slade,
right.
My brother, Slade, we were still living in the same apartment at
Mm-hmm.
the time, and he was at our apartment
Okay.
while I was
Yeah.
recording that podcast with Blade, and came out at some point, talked on it for a bit. So you might have heard that or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So I listened to a piece of it, and I thought to myself, okay, honestly,
Yeah.
if I am just some guy, that
Some random
ass
stranger.
dude that comes across this, right?
Sure.
I'm pretending to be from Arkansas, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
I was born in Arkansas, actually, but
Oh, I didn't know
anyway.
that.
So I fucking put in my AirPods, and I'm living in some nice ass, house with my racist parents.
Okay.
And life is great, and I'm listening to Frank Sinclair's podcast. Are we not supposed to use names, full names?
No, you can. It's called This Podcast with Frank Sinclair.
I like it. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. No, that's beautiful.
No,
That's
I have to
beautiful.
use my full name.
I've been almost scared of using a name.
I'm not goddamn Prince.
Get an
You should be
alias,
scared of putting yourself out there.
We'll talk about that.
I don't think you should be.
So anyway, I'm
What's
some
at
random
stake,
ass guy.
man?
I come across this, right, and I'm thinking to myself, this guy has the balls to talk in public
Yeah.
and show it to people. Be like, this is who I am.
Right.
So many people hide behind just their social media accounts
Yeah.
and use that as their identity.
Sure.
And now
or at least in
like,
terms of the modern public square.
And when I come across you,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like I was talking about earlier, there's this depth to you where there's like, no, this guy's got more going on, And it's frustrating to me that people aren't more like you. It's frustrating to me.
You
It's
know
like,
what? I'm very
I wish people
complimented
could
by
just
that.
be like Frank.
I feel very complimented by that.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. It's very sweet of you to say. But I'm sure you don't mean that you wish there were like just other me's walking around. You're
Absolutely not.
Excuse me.
Yeah, no, I think
You're
there's
speaking
plenty
about a
enough of you
specific-
with just one Frank.
Oh,
Thanks.
for sure. Yeah. I should have it was too bad cuz
Could you imagine what Sarah would do?
well, the title had already been taken by a superior comedian to myself. I'm really not a comedian, but James May. He took the title Talks Too Much. Maybe I talk too much. I think that might be what it is.
You are a comedian as much as I am a philosopher, Frank.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But I'm not much of a comedian. I just
I'm not
like
much
it.
of a philosopher.
That's yeah, but it's one of the things you spend a lot of time doing.
This is true.
Yeah.
Actually.
More time than I spend trying to be funny, I think. Maybe. I don't know. I guess I dedicate a lot of my social interaction to it. I like it a lot.
I know, and it's becoming of you, man. It's nice.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's refreshing to have someone who's not just talking about the fucking shit that pisses them off at work all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
That's true.
I'm super guilty of that,
Sure.
But yikes. It's
Well, there's a lot going on. On. But like I was saying, I assume you mean there's a quality that you wish other people had.
Yes.
Would you say that that's just the balls?
So
I guess
this,
you know what I
yeah.
mean. Because I feel that everybody is actually a very interesting person. Almost everybody that I've ever met is actually a pretty interesting person. It's just that there's a lot that they withhold. It's like a strategy to get by through life, to withhold a lot of your true desires and it makes it easier to sort of work with just wherever the wind kind of pushes you.
Yeah. So, you got me. Hold on.
Yeah, no problem. Just consider the dead air.
Yeah. So, I'll think out loud. So,
yeah,
you made me think for a second that I'm just like reminded, honestly, that I am continually unaware of my reactions. I guess.
You mean you're not self-aware?
Yeah. No, a lot of the time I'm not self-aware.
Interesting.
And it's very difficult, and I think that's largely due, and I'm serious about this, that I think it's largely due to my ADHD. I was like diagnosed as a kid. I know a lot of kids get diagnosed with, and then jumped on some medication for it, some Adderall, and then a bunch of other stuff they threw me on,
Right.
And it was brutal stuff. It messed me up. Like, couldn't do anything. Had no appetite. Lost a lot of weight, which was good for wrestling. But yikes, it was horrible. And it really sucked me dry. I guess, like my passion for life, and I guess. Whoa, where was I going with that? Damn. That went off. Wow.
That you're not self-aware.
Yes. Wow.
But
Sorry.
here's something that
ADHD brain.
that immediately is interesting about your statement just there. To state that you are not self-aware is introspective.
Okay, it's introspective
You know what I mean?
too. Yes, but there are facets of me that I can't even necessarily I haven't discovered the nature of.
Sure,
I know that they exist.
And it kind of does depend.
I don't understand them.
It kind of does depend a little bit on other people's interpretation of you, because for you to be not self-aware, like if somebody meets you and talks with you and leaves that conversation and says to another guy, like a mutual friend or something. He's not a very self-aware guy, There has to be a contradiction in what you are projecting and what they are perceiving. Yeah.
So, and that's also like that plays into the thing of why I'm scared, to be on a platform.
Right, but
it's like,
there's hope.
Yeah.
And that you would think that thought, though, because that is...
So here's my intention behind just the platform thing alone, is I want to be able, like I've learned to communicate with people with everything, like my body language, my facial expression, everything, because I really try to communicate things as much as I can, because I feel like the more that I read, the farther and farther I get from society, man.
Oh, shoot.
It's weird.
Yeah, okay.
And
you feel like you're trying to reach out to a person.
Yeah, it's hard because I feel like I can't. It feels like I can't connect. Like I feel like there is this wall of context behind some of the things that I say, and they just don't have that context, and that's not their fault, and it's not a bad thing even. It's not a negative thing even. It's just what it is. It's just makes it difficult to, when I think about, for instance, I have this on my shelf I'm looking at, A Treatise of Human Nature by David Hume. You know? That's some grade A shit right there. That's hard. You know, that's hard. And it took me a long time to work my way through that thing. And someone who hasn't, like, in depth tried to understand themselves will not ever understand all of, like, really any part of themselves, because it's impossible. It's impossible to, like, not... It's impossible to not accept parts of yourself and pretend they don't exist. Like, humans are animals. Humans are animals. Damn, sorry.
You're saying that
Yeah.
A subconscious motivator in a
Oh,
person
yeah, dude. About
will-
90% of the things that I do these days.
will motivate them regardless of whether or not they are aware of it as a motivator.
What are the greatest inspirations of your life? That culture, that context, that inspiration was created somewhere.
Sorry, what was?
Whatever inspiration it is that someone has for anything. I for a long time I was writing this piece called On the Creation of Inspiration. Why people do the things that they want to do. Where do they get the desire to do them, right? Why does it come about? Is it a phenomena that's consistent in other animals?
Sure.
I don't know. It doesn't seem that way, and it's weird. I don't know.
It's a very peculiar thing.
Yeah.
Because it depends on how you use the word inspiration, I suppose. Because you could say, I was inspired to produce a bowel movement. You know, like,
Yeah.
But that's not really the inspiration.
More of a provoking, you know.
You know, I don't know.
Prodding.
But something that
Have you.
inspires you is certainly, it's on a deeper level than, it's like necessity that's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like something where it's like, you don't have to do that to survive, but you have to do that to feel that you're experiencing life properly.
Yeah.
You know, those are interesting
that you're
things.
on the right track, at least, or something.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
and those
you know?
are too particular to boil down sometimes to, like just like
But here's the thing: is like
biology or even maybe social
those
construction.
right tracks that everyone's trying to attain. You know, I think there's some wisdom in what the Buddha said when he said the goal is the path and the path is the goal. Like, we are here to be where we're at. You know,
That's at least where you are.
Yeah, and I don't think there's really anything else worth thinking about, because you think about the past and it becomes regret, and then you think about the future and it becomes anxiety, you know?
Well, only if your life is really fucking horrible.
Well, I mean, you let it get to you too much. You can plan, obviously. That's probably a good idea. You should probably
Well,
fucking
there's gotta
plan,
be-
but you're doing that in the present. You
I'm
know?
not saying if you're doing anything correctly, then there has to be something you can look back on in the past and not just regret.
Oh, no, I draw inspiration from the past.
Yeah, it's more than just regrets.
Yeah, the past is
Here, let me
alive
hit you with
in
one more
the
thing, and then
present through me, bitch.
let me hit you with a thing, and then I want to have a quick smoke break.
Yeah.
Because I want to do this outside so I could have a cigarette during it, but
Okay.
then it's too cold
Yeah,
for
I'm a
some of us
pussy.
here. He is a pussy. He didn't want to do
Yeah.
it cold. Well, either you're a pussy, or another way you could look at it is I'm just a fucking
Macho ass
no,
hunk
no,
of
no. That's the way you would see it.
man cake.
No, that's the way you would see it if, in the narrative you choose, is that you're a pussy. Then I'm like macho and stuff. But you could also just equally look at it as I'm a pussy because I'm like, I need nicotine. It's going to be like an hour and a half, maybe longer.
Nah, dude, you're the fucking
I
Marlboro
need
man.
nicotine. You know what I mean? Like, you could also look at it that way,
Yeah.
which I think is just as valid.
Yeah.
But let me hit you with one more.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever watched BoJack Horseman?
Yes.
Tremendous show. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
it's
ever
great.
finished it.
I haven't finished it.
Astounding show, but excuse me, the writing in that show. Obviously, most of the writers are nihilists,
Right.
or at least the ones that make the main through line, plot line.
Right.
They're nihilists. 95% of the speeches in that show are just nihilistic.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
So here's the thing I realized about nihilistic patterns of thought.
Okay.
It appears to me that there is a driving... I don't know whether to call it a tactic or just an error in judgment. But it's like ideological, or ideological, excuse me. And you can see it in the speeches in BoJack Horseman.
Okay.
A tool that they use to make their points is they'll take one thing that is a fact, that is true, that implies things that are depressing or negative, right? Nihilistic, make you hopeless, you know?
Yeah.
And then they'll reduce that thing, that whole subject or topic, to that one truth, to that one fact. So, for example, you may have heard people say things like, life is suffering, and then you die, you know? Like things like that.
Yeah, sure.
And people really mean that. They say that.
Yeah.
But it's extremely reductive. Like, it's like thinking of life like a caveman. It's really unsophisticated to me, because both of those things are true. Life is suffering, and then you die. Both of those are true. But you're cutting out, like, some of the most beautiful, amazing pleasures. Hey, man, like, chocolate exists. It's fucking beautiful. We got coffee and tobacco and sex. Like, this shit is also amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so I was wondering what you would think about that. As not quite an objection, more just sort of an observation.
I see nihilism, or I guess annihilation more so, because nihilism really isn't even actually an ideology. Nihilation is really just the dismantling of an ideology. That's what nihilation is.
Right.
So, Nietzsche was a nihilist in that all he did was tear apart ideologies.
But you can be a person that can break a building and also not be able to build one.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think that's what bothers me about that.
So
line of
here's
thought.
what I learned from Nietzsche. Okay?
Right.
In order to build a strong house of ideology, of understanding, metaphysics, epistemology, ontology, every bit of it, in order to build any understanding of the world, he called it or he wrote about it in a book called Twilight of the Idols, or another name for it was Philosophizing with a Sledgehammer.
I've heard of that expression.
Basically, what it means is exactly that. Philosophizing with a sledgehammer. Break apart everything, but in hopes that you find the cornerstone, the core.
Yeah, and that's
the
what's
thing
so...
that is unbreakable, right?
It's like there is something strangely optimistic about seeking that out.
Exactly.
And about trying to break everything.
So here's the thing.
Because you can find things that won't break.
Here's why nihilism is actually, I think, necessarily the answer. Is because...
The answer to
through
just
death comes rebirth, right? Just throughout historical...
According to Christ,
Hold on. According to Christ, according to the Buddha, according to all sorts of mythological characters, all across ancient Egyptian history, across Norse mythology, across Greek mythology, across like Mesopotamian mythology, like seriously everywhere. And the death of the individual, this like common idea of like looking death in the face, like actually dying. I read this devotional once. It's sitting up here somewhere on my shelf, called My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers. It's a devotional book. I read a page of it that said, what did it say? It said, have you had your white funeral yet? Have you died to yourself? Actually died so that Christ may live in you. And I sat back and I looked at that page, and I got furious. And I ripped the page out, and I stapled it in a journal, and I X'd it out with like big fat red marker. I was like, I will never bow to this religiosity. I will never die to myself. I can't. Not even. A year later, I went to Moody Bible Institute, and I died to myself completely. And I handed my life over to the Lord, to Jesus. And even more so, that was taken from me. I then chose to leave the faith after a long pursuit in philosophy. Oh, I don't know why I'm going on about this.
Well, it's good stuff. I'll have you know. I was
Sometimes it's ranting.
I was asking, well, if it's true and extremely, if it's only something that I could hear out of your mouth, then I'm interested in hearing it.
Right.
You know.
Okay.
But I did ask you what you thought about the idea that a lot of people that are nihilists are ideologically reductive. And
I think they're ideologically reductive.
you did mention, and you can have somebody who is a good thinker that still is being compelled through some kind of ideology. Yeah. You know. Yeah. So I'm not just saying, if you're a nihilist or you take a lot from nihilism that you're ideological. So I liked what you said specifically, though. Yeah, go ahead. I liked specifically what you said about the idea that you're trying to find something that absolutely cannot break. Because then it actually makes it a benevolent pursuit. You know, if you're just trying to rip everything down, just to rip everything down, then... you're like the opposite of what is good. I guess
that's just a piece of shit. That's a tyrant. That's a
right.
No,
but
if
you're seeking, if
I'm
you're
trying
just
to understand,
I'm
not trying to kill.
You're trying to find that thing that's like just concrete,
impeccable, like structurally sound. I guess. Like it's and I have.
But I like that. It justifies smashing everything.
Where I was going with that. Eventually, with my little blurb that I was going on.
And then after this, I gotta take a smoke break.
Oh, hey, okay.
I'm starting to scratch.
Have to join you. Yeah, man, you're good. So, I then read "Thus Spoke Zarathustra" by Friedrich Nietzsche about that time, and when I read that, I read the passage "God is dead." That passage.
Right.
And that passage carries a lot of philosophical context and weight with it, right?
That's what I've heard.
There's a lot of baggage on that little triage of words. About as much probably as the Bible has for Yahweh, there's a lot behind it. So basically when he said that, I looked at myself and I thought, would Jesus die? Like if I was the Messiah, would I die? He would die. Would I? Would Jesus die for this cause? Like actually?
Like for you?
No. Would he die? Would he denounce the faith so that he could go on this pursuit? Would Jesus do that? Oh. I'm serious. That's something that ran through my head, and I was like, yeah, I think he would.
Denounce the faith?
Denounce the faith so that he could pursue this.
Well, he only does what he sees his Father in heaven do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that at least my idea of who Jesus was, meaning would he, like, without, obviously if he was in my place, he wouldn't have infinite knowledge of God and who he is and him being God, So if he's in my place, and if as I am who I am, is me going down this road of actually, like, throwing it on the line, putting some skin in the game, like, standing on my own 2 feet and being like, you know what, maybe I am willing to face hellfire for this one, because this one might be worth standing on. Or be at risk of facing hellfire, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually something that, like, I think about a lot. I wrote about it in my journal today even. I was like, I don't want to die and be like, God's like, hey, remember that time you, like, literally kept on saying you weren't a Christian?
Yeah, it's a big
That's
thought.
fucked up, man. Like,
it's a big thought.
I'm like,
Who knows? Only God.
something like that.
God only knows, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Here, let's take a pause.
Cheers.
Okay? We'll be right back.
She was dancing with the devil. Oh, you love my shoes. And when you see those little girls, when I see those, she's already yours. 16, she's already On part 2 with Dylan, the amateur philosopher, we talk about girls. It's pretty fucking deep.